Can't wait for people to flame me.
How do you pronounce the shortened form of the graphics interchange format?
I say it is Unga Bunga, where rock.
Hello, welcome to Speed Trap. This is RequiemOfSpirit. He's probably best known for advocating for the SNES Classic and abandoning Link to the Past on the slightest pretense. Do you have any other way you'd like to introduce yourself?
I'm trying to think about all the curse strats I've developed. I feel like you've called me out on the Harapot strat that I use multiple times.
Harapot, what do you do for Harapot?
The buffer method where I buffer downright one frame at a time. I'm infamous for grabbing magic in Turtle Rock, which I think everyone should do. I think it's a good magic to grab. I think it's a good strat.
Oh god.
I'm gonna die on this hill. Yeah, hi everyone. I'm RequiemOfSpirit. People call me a variety of names. I've been called Requiem Spirit, Reqsy, multiple different names. I have a huge list of highlights on Twitch, to the point where so many different words now just ping me. It's fun.
Yeah. Cool. So glad to have you on. Usually the first thing I ask people about is how they got interested in speedrunning or how they specifically got interested in normally Link to the Past. I don't know that Link to the Past counts as your main game, but yeah, so what brought you to speedrunning?
Yeah, Link to the Past was definitely my first speed game. I guess I was first exposed to speedrunning. I think a lot of people had the same thing by like Narcissa's 2013 Ocarina of Time any percent run. I feel like that was like a big, especially for like people who got into Zelda speedrunning, that was like a huge point. That was what first introduced me to speedrunning. But like at that point and like for the next 5 years, I watched speedruns and I watched GDQ, but I was never like, oh, I could become a speedrunner myself until I think like it was 2017, where this might be another common point for like newer Link to the Past runners, which it was Rando that brought me in.
Yeah.
Specifically, I was watching. I never played initially, but like for like a whole year or year and a half, I watched. I was a huge Andy fan. I watched a lot of Andy's YouTube uploads for Rando. I guess I'm not sure if these people still exist, but I was like I would always go crazy for the hovers whenever I'd see Andy hover in a seat. I was like, yeah, let's go. Yeah. And then I like end of 2018, I was like, wait, why can't I play Rando myself? And I tried to play Rando, and I sucked a lot. And so I was like, okay, I need to improve. And so like I started like learning the bosses and learning all sorts of bomb jumps. And then I knew there was like a speedrun scene, and I was like, okay, let me try to learn NMG for the purposes of like getting better at Rando and then going back to Rando. And I've since not gone back to Rando. It's been 5 years.
Yeah, the only time I remember seeing you play Rando is when we tricked you into doing our no logic multi-world.
Oh yeah, I remember that. And I didn't even do any logic things. I just did like a lot of overworld clips pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think like in like 2020, like especially during the pandemic, there was like a group of people in Kelpsy's Discord who would like play multi-worlds like every Sunday.
Yeah.
And I used to play with them a lot. I think they don't play anymore, and I also just don't talk to them much because I stopped playing multi. But yeah, it's been a while since I played any rando. I really want to get into no logic, mainly because that's where the speedrunning community is. But there's a lot of info involved.
Yeah. It's the perfect time too. The mentor tournament just ended and the real tournament is about to wrap up, so nobody's going to be playing in like a month.
Oh yeah, perfect.
So Link to the Past was your first game. I guess you were playing sort of off-stream kind of dark matter of rando players for a while. You've done a bunch of other games too, though, right? You've played a lot of Breath of the Wild, certainly.
Yeah, it's mainly just these two. It's mainly just A Link to the Past and Breath of the Wild. It's honestly just like I've played almost all of the mainline Zelda games. And I'm not interested in speedruns for games that I haven't played. Like I know a lot of people love SM64 speedrunning. I never played SM64, so I don't really care about it.
Yeah.
So like for me it was like, okay, what are the easiest Zelda games that I can pick up? And I was watching a lot of rando, so like Link to the Past came up. I have a Switch, and Breath of the Wild was a thing. I think like some really big popular creator put like a tutorial for like wind bombs, which is a really popular trick in Breath of the Wild, and I started trying it out and just messing around with all the other tricks. And eventually I got to a point where I was incredibly good at and knowledgeable about a lot of the tech within Breath of the Wild, but I never did any speed runs. And so when I like started talking to all the Breath of the Wild runners, I just got pulled into that really easily. I feel like I would be running a lot of other Zelda games if getting into them was easier. I've considered running like OOT and MM, They each have their own problems, and I know you're judging me right now very heavily. But like I like there's a reluctance of trying to set up my Wii versus like for A Link to the Past, I just had an emulator ready to go. I guess I
Interesting.
could use an emulator for OOT, but like once you hit the top 20%, you can't use emulator anymore.
Right.
There's that has like a 17-minute long intro, which must be fun every time you reset.
That's brutal.
uh, yeah, there was Wind Waker HD, which I was really into. Like I really watched a lot of it, but I don't own a Wii U, and I didn't want to buy a Wii U just to speedrun it. And so it's like, okay, well, I'm not doing that either.
Those things have got to be really cheap. Nobody likes the Wii U.
Probably like I wouldn't mind buying it, but I also the game's just dead right now. No one speedruns Wind Waker HD anymore. It's
Yeah,
like,
fair.
hmm.
Zelda's actually been speedrunning Wind Waker HD.
Oh yeah, I think I've seen. Is it HD or SD that he's doing?
I
He's
think
doing. I
it's
know he's doing
HD, but
like
I'm not
glitch.
sure. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I've seen Zelda doing glitchless. I think seen some other like Link to the Past runners also doing Wind Waker glitchless. I thought it was like an interesting crossover.
Oh, I haven't seen anyone else doing it. I think Relkin was doing a casual playthrough. I'm
And
not aware
I
of
think I
someone
saw
else speedrunning.
Satan. I think I saw Satan doing a
Oh, that might be right. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a pretty interesting crossover. But yeah.
So pretty committed to the Zelda franchise, though.
Uh-huh. I did dabble in Celeste speedrunning a bit. I tried learning the very first stage, I think it's Forsaken City. I think like 3 hours into grinding it, my wrists started making noises that wrists shouldn't make.
This is a very common story. You've told me this just now. Meowski said almost the same thing on the last episode. Dow has also said the same thing, like really fun, but you can't practice it because it just gives you RSI instantaneously.
Yeah, I would really love to. I think a lot of players play on keyboard, which sounds so cursed to me. I would love to play on controller, but like I don't know, maybe keyboard's better for your hands or something. I wasn't just playing on a controller. I was playing on the regular 8-bit tone controller that I normally play on,
Mm.
which is not the most ergonomic controller. Yeah, it was pretty terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like a fun game. I've actually never played it, but it seems like a cool speedrun. I've watched it a little bit.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing that you said that I wanted to follow up on, this is another thing that Meowski also mentioned was that you felt like, well, you didn't quite say it this way, but it seems like there was, for a while, you like didn't think of yourself as someone who speedran, and then you were like, wait a second, there isn't really anything stopping me. Was there like any process there? Was there a gap you had to overcome?
I'm not sure what really kicked it off. I think part of the things was I wasn't on Twitch until like towards the end of 2018. So I only created my Twitch account in like middle of 2018 pretty much. And so until then, like none of my friends around me were like people who played Zelda or like were into speedruns. There were some people who like watched it, but they were like not completely detached from it. And so I didn't have, if I had like company, maybe I would have gotten into it faster, which is I guess why when I joined Twitch, I think like the first few people who I followed were like all speedrunners who had just done like the last GDQ, like Gymnast, Linkus, Demon. I think I followed Andy as well. And so I was just like watching all of them and their speedruns and like being part of their Discord communities and like, oh okay, there's like a huge following here, some people that I can just like, chat with and like actually start picking this up. And at that point is when I thought I would never stream at that point, and that's when I picked up Rando, and then like I would just very casually play it, and like towards like the end of 2019, like August September 2019 is when I started learning NMG. I think the beginning of 2020 is when I had my first like NMG run or something like that. And even at that point I didn't stream. It wasn't until like 2021 where I was like, maybe I should stream this. This is starting to get really annoying. just having the game with like nothing else, no one in VC, Discord VC, or just like just playing just the game got super tiring really quick.
Yeah, it's a lot more fun with some conversation for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Why did you think you never wanted to stream or you wouldn't stream?
I guess even now, like streaming isn't my primary focus. My primary focus is definitely just speedrunning. And so even now I stream just because it makes speedrunning easier. So like I don't have a desire to like stream or be a streamer. It's just that speedrunning lends itself so easily to streaming, and it like helps me go for a lot longer than I would be able to without like a stream with me. Yeah.
Interesting. Do you do a lot of off-stream gaming?
Not much actually, not anymore. The only off-stream gaming I do nowadays is just like speedrun practice, pretty much. And that too, I jump in like anyone who's like in a Discord VC, I jump in their VC and I do practice there.
Interesting.
Yeah. I
So
find that whenever I'm like playing games, it's become more and more pronounced recently. Where like whenever I pick up a casual game and try to play it, I start feeling guilty. Where like, well, you could be using this time to like do speedrun practice. What are you doing right now?
yeah,
Really good mentality to have.
that's funny. I think a lot of people say that. Like Twin was on here and said not quite the same stuff because she still does a lot of casual gaming, but like it really does change how you approach games in general. I think.
I am glad that I have like my only like true free time sort of pastime thing is watching anime, and I don't see how I could make watching anime competitive unless I become an anime YouTuber, I guess, which sounds terrible.
You could just be one of those guys who goes on Reddit and argues all the time.
Oh my god.
So I didn't do this, obviously, or I wouldn't be spoiling it now, but I was considering for your tier list, I was considering like badgering Viv or someone and asking like what animes you'd been watching to get an idea of something for you, but I didn't go that route.
You didn't go that route. Okay.
That would have been funny, but I know literally nothing about any of it, so.
Yeah, that's fair.
Anyway, so you learned. This was actually kind of funny. You said you learned the speedrun in like late 2019 and then didn't actually do runs for a couple months, like sometime in 2020.
It was. I think it was more of I was learning it for the length of a couple months, and then I did my first run in the beginning of 2020 or something like that.
Okay, but then you famously stopped and didn't do another run for like 18 months or whatever.
Yeah. And maybe I should like pull up speedrun.com to see what the gap between those submissions was. I think like my last run during that bout was like in May of 2020. I like my first run was a 135, which I knew was terrible, and I had so much time loss because I was really scared. And then I had a run that could have been a 132, but my PC blue screened, which is nice. And then I PB'd again. I got a 134, so I only finished 2 runs, and I think I had 60 attempts. And then in May, I was like, I had a goal of sub 90 before. But my initial goal was I'm gonna hit sub 90, then I go back to rando, and then I have fun. Which is like the whole meme of A B question mark profit.
Yeah.
But so like I had a goal of sub 90 and I didn't know how to hit it because I think my sum of best at the time was like a 130 flat. And I was like, okay, even if I play perfectly, I'm still not going to hit sub 90. And I didn't know what was going on. And I think at the time is when the FMG tutorial series was coming out. And so I was like, okay, let's try this. And I was sick and tired of the light world because I kept resetting in it because I didn't have a good speedrun mentality back then. You lose 2 seconds in escape, it's time to reset. But yeah, so I didn't want to do that. So I started with Palace of Darkness. And I think my gold at the time was a 635. I finished watching the Palace of Darkness segment. I watched the initial movement tutorial and then I watched the Palace of Darkness segment and I tried like one segment run. And I think I immediately golded by 10 seconds. And I think by the end of the week, I had like a 611 or something, which is really good for someone with like a 1-3x, I guess.
Oh, yeah, that's preposterous.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was like really fast improvement. And so after that, I would just take a split in FMG, basically grind it like on weekends for like a month and then move on to the next split. And I was just doing that on repeat until I finished the Dark World. And that's when I started streaming and doing Dark World attempts. And then eventually when I got a little happier with that, I just did the same thing for all the Light World splits. And I think my first PB after was like, it went from a 134 to a 128 and then a 127 on the same day, which is a pretty big jump. Yeah.
So that's pretty good. Almost 7 minutes or around 7 minutes of PB in that day.
Yeah, there were so many mistakes I was making early on. I didn't know about like door drag. I didn't know about like stair drag. I didn't know like proper movement with the hook shot or with the boots. There were a ton of other mistakes I was making. I was pretty good with all the bosses because I initially watched Andy's tutorial and he covers the bosses pretty well. But like the other movement, he kind of glosses over a lot of it. And so I was making like a ton of mistakes, and I also wasn't reading a lot of enemy RNG well, and there's all of that just piled up over and over. Yeah. There was also, I guess, I like my very first run, because I learned from Andy's tutorial, I didn't watch the whole thing, so I didn't learn any of the safeties. So my first attempts were no safeties, nothing, except for Sandcart.
Yeah, for anyone who hasn't seen it, I haven't seen it in 7 years or whatever, but I'm pretty sure the way Andy does it is he goes through the whole run like optimal route, And then after that, he like goes back to Swamp and is like, if you're doing Gold Sword and Silvers, here's the beginner route.
Yeah.
So if you watch only the first 5.5 hours, you miss out on all on all of the safety content.
Yeah, and like he said that it was like if you're doing safeties, I'm covering that later, and I'm like, I don't need safeties. Who needs safeties?
Yeah, exactly. Do you feel like that was a good approach? I mean, I would have hated it. I think most people would hate that, but you seem to have gotten good results out of it and to still kind of do it.
If I were to do it again, I wouldn't do it. I guess I'm still doing something similar, but I'm trying to approach it a bit faster now. One of the problems I had in the past was I would get too lazy trying to learn the next split because it's a lot of effort going into that video and like looking through each room.
Yeah.
And so I would like stick with one split and I would just keep running it because I'd just be too lazy and be like, oh, I only have 3 hours today. I don't have enough time to move to the next split. And so what I tried to do when I learned my most recent category, which is all dungeons RMG, was just force myself into the next split. So I'd like learn one split, just like go through all of the rooms, take notes, and not even do like a segment run. I would just like the next stream or the next session, I just move on to the next split. So I'd have like a full set of notes that I could look at. And then at the end of all of it, I did like I think I did like a single practice run through. And then like on that stream, I got a pretty decent PB.
So mostly the same process, but like very accelerated.
Yes.
Instead of doing like 5 or 6 sessions over the course of a month on a split, you do one over the course of one day, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense to me.
Yeah, and I guess to be fair, that initial learning session I did for over a year does help now because like I obviously am much better at movement, and like some of NMG stuff transfers into like the other categories that you do, and so there's some overlap, and so I guess I can't like directly compare them as two distinct things. There's stuff from the first that definitely helps now, but like, no, that was I would not recommend anyone do that unless you just your sole goal is to hit like a I don't know 124 or 125 or something, and you just want to get that and get out, and you don't care about anything else, and you're willing to suffer.
Yeah, it just seems like an odd way to go about it because it's such a huge investment before getting any of the fun.
Yeah,
unless practicing is just inherently fun for you, which like I actually do really enjoy practicing, but I can't imagine that level of it.
Yeah, practice I did find fun, but and especially seeing all the results, like seeing my golds drop by like tens and 20 of seconds every single split. Goals, practice goals. They're real goals. Hey, don't discriminate against the practice goals. But yeah, so seeing that drop was really fun. But like I think I reached a point where I almost like I was gonna just get the sub 90 and quit after a point because one thing that I wasn't doing and one thing that I was just in it for the speed run and like I never really interacted too much with people from the community. And so not having anyone to talk about the speedrun itself just felt awful. Like, and that's one of the reason I feel reluctant to pick up even games that look cool. Is like if I don't have anyone to talk to, I'm gonna just drop it. And that's something I realized from that whole grind. And it's only after that I started streaming and like talking to people from the community. I was like, oh yeah, okay, this is fun. Now I'm finally having more fun.
Right.
Yeah.
But you could, I mean, it depends on the game, obviously. You can't pick up some game nobody's ever played before, but for a game like, for example, Celeste or Wind Waker, surely you could find people to talk about the run with if you wanted to.
I could, yeah. And that is true. But like even for Wind Waker, like I have friends who run Wind Waker. It's just they're not running it currently. It's like it's very inactive. There's a lot of people who have run it who I can talk to about, but unless there's someone who's like actively running it at the time, it's like a bit harder. It's like another barrier of entry to get that into conversation. You kind of see that sometimes with Link to the Past as well. Like the game it has its bouts of like its ups and downs in terms of activity. Like during its downs, if that was like much more extended, I'd feel like if I picked up the game at that time, I wouldn't have much fun because there's not too many people actively running it. But you know, Link to the Past is quite popular among the Zelda games, so
it's for sure. Nice. There was a while, I don't remember exactly when, I want to say maybe 2022, where it was like real dead. It was like right after the Boyne and MG tournament, so people were a little burned out, and also like COVID restrictions were all gone, so people had more real life stuff going on, and it was like, you know, real grim out there. But I guess you got in before that down wave.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I've never really felt that way, like I need to have people to watch of whatever game I'm playing or whatever. You're not the only person I've heard say that, so it's clearly a common sentiment, but not really one that applies to me, I guess. How about other games? You do the same thing with Breath of the Wild. You did this insane thing where instead of running a category you wanted to run, you ran the worst category in the world as practice.
Yeah. Breath of the Wild, it had a like I guess initially had a similar story where I guess all runs start with the Great Plateau. There's no way like even after 7 years we still haven't found a way to leave the Great Plateau, and we probably never will. So all runs start with like Plateau, which is honestly a really fun but also fairly hard like tutorial section in terms of speedruns anyway. Most games have like an easy first two splits, but Plateau is pretty hard. And so I spent like my first initial bit of effort running Plateau. Except I was like putting a lot more focus into like getting a 125 in A Link to the Past. So I would just like I learned Plateau and I did runs of it. And I go back to Link to the Past, and whenever I got burnt out in A Link to the Past, I'd come back and run Plateau again. So there's like a period of 2 years. Well, all I did was run Plateau, and that's it. To the point where this was back before we discovered like the new trick BLSS, where you pick up a bomb and a bow and fly across the ends of the universe. Before that, the route was much more difficult and much harder. Um, and like I was still learning parts of that route and like the rest of any percent, but like by the time I could like I didn't even finish and everything had already changed.
Yeah.
uh, so I had to like relearn Plateau, and after that point, like I put aside like my laziness, and I was like, okay, let's sit down and like learn Castle, Blight's, Calamity, and I finally did that. But for what you saw, that's the trick that I mentioned, Boliv's smuggle slide, is it takes a couple of weeks to get used to it because you are constantly flicking left and right on your control stick. And you want to do it fairly fast to build speed quickly. And if you're not used, you can do it like a couple flicks, but if you're not used to it, you often hit neutral, which causes you to drop it. Sometimes you accidentally let go of B, which also causes you to drop it. So there's like a couple finicky things. And that category, all it does is slide across all of Hyrule, collecting all the towers, which is a pretty brain dead category. But it's fun like the first time, I guess.
Is that the same thing that's called wind bombs, or is that a different trick?
Wind bombs is a different trick. Wind bombs are much more interesting.
Oh.
Yeah. I think I've seen you. I think you've called Breath of the Wild any percent boring, but like I think wind bombs are the one thing that make it super interesting. Uh, Wind bombs are a trick are really cool. I probably rate them among like my top 5 like speedrunning tricks of all time.
That's cool. Can you name any of the other 5s? That's a great question.
Well, I just threw that out there.
No,
I'm
it's a
not
great
sure what
prompt,
the other.
though. Yeah.
I'm not sure what the other 5 would be. I would definitely put stuff from Celeste up there. I really love Celeste movement, like hyper dashes and wave dashes. I would definitely put up there. Probably even like Celeste, the speed game as a whole, and the movement at number 1. Um, hmm. I don't know about numberings, but if I were to think of a few more, in terms of just how cool they look, I know Wind Waker has items like HD has item sliding, which is like whenever you go really fast, like that's obviously really cool to look at. So
Yeah.
when Link goes zoom, I mean that's gotta be cool. But
Sure.
like Wind Waker SD, like I enjoy SD as more as a speed game, and SD has like storage, which is a very cool trick because it has so many different applications. You can use it to build speed in the water. You can use it to climb up walls. You can store like I'm not too knowledgeable, so I might say some things that are wrong. But like you can store like the chest opening or door opening animations to like make collision disappear and like do a lot of cool things with it. And so like a lot of these glitches, which are both very technical and also have like a lot of like impact that viewers can easily follow, I find like really cool.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting to pick a bunch of games that you don't actually play.
Yeah, it's mostly just people that I watched. Like I watched a lot
Yeah.
of Wind Waker speedrunners like back when it was really popular in
Well, you said
2019.
Linkus. I think he's a Wind Waker guy, right?
Yeah. Linkus and Demon were both running Wind Waker for like a couple years. Linkus, I think right even now he like ran. I think I'm not sure if he did a run for GDQ or like. Oh no, it was for I think it was for Ludwig's event maybe.
I know
Ludwig's
he
like
was there. I
speedrun.
don't remember what he ran.
Yeah, but he was practicing Wind Waker HD for something. So yeah, he runs that Demon before he retired from speedrunning entirely. Yeah.
I don't know anything about Demon except for the DemD emote that you use all the time. Well, I might use it as much as you now, and I don't even have the sub. But I don't really know anything about the guy.
Yeah, Demon is probably one of the goats of like 3D Zelda speedrunning. Like he's done. I think he was the first person to do like all 3D Zelda any percents back to back, and he got like a really good time in it. This is before Tears of the Kingdom came out. And I
Wow.
think
How long is that?
I think at the time it was 6 hours.
Oh, okay.
And with Tears of the Kingdom, that adds an extra like probably 45 minutes to it.
That's less than I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, he whatever like game he picked up, he was like extremely good at it, like right off the bat. I think he picked up Breath of the Wild and he was like getting world records left and right, like pretty quick.
Impressive.
So yeah, he was really good. Yeah. I think like one of the most impressive runs from like Wind Waker is like his I think it's a still standing record, or maybe someone beat it, but like any percent before barrier skip was found in SD is like such a cool run. It's 3 hours and 45 minutes, which is fairly long, but it has like a lot of really cool and difficult tricks. But yeah, and then I think at some point he burnt out and then quit. And he says he'll come back at some point, but yeah, no, he's still playing Final Fantasy.
That's fair. Which Final Fantasy?
I think 14.
Oh god, no, that's not fair at all.
That's not fair at all.
That's the MMO. That's the one that drains your life force away. All right, enough about Demon. Do you have any current goals? Any current speedrunning goals? I know you were working on all dungeons, and then you've been very busy and not really doing anything recently. Do you have any more goals than that, or any other games?
So I do have like a bunch of goals. There's obviously NMG. I want to hit 124 at some point.
Okay.
I think my current pace is like getting one NMG PB a year, and then getting a bit motivated and like doing like one split deep dive and then just burning out completely and leaving forever.
Classic.
Yeah, NMG is hard, but 80 RMG is a lot of fun. Yeah, that's something that I just finished learning and did like after that one run I haven't done it. I think it's been like a month.
Yeah.
But I do want to get back to it. I feel like I could hit 109 with some effort. Like after just a few, like I only have 11 attempts, and I think my sum of best is like 109 already. So I feel like I could hit it pretty quickly, but I'm not sure. Maybe that's just me daydreaming.
It seems about right.
Mm-hmm.
Like as a 125 runner, you should have the general movement and skills necessary to get you a 109.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think I was looking at my current PB, which is like a low 111, and I think the first two splits lose like 30 seconds at least each.
Yeah.
Because I was really messing around with a lot of dumb stuff. And then there was one point where I had to return to Palace of Darkness, and I completely lost my way. I ended up in Hera, and then realized I wasn't supposed to be in Hera. And then when I went back to Palace of Darkness, I started exploring it in Cave State until I realized I shouldn't be in Cave State. It was a lot of fun, but yeah, no, there's some easy time save when I go back. There's those two goals. I kind of want to do a bunch of other RMG categories as well. Once I get used to hovering again, because I kind of unlearned it somehow, I want to go back to any percent RMG and maybe get like a 20-minute time. Because that seems pretty easy. There's not too much that happens. It's just hit the one frame tricks and you get it pretty much.
Yeah, not a very exciting category, really.
Yeah, it's just for the time and then just move on.
Sure.
Or at least just get like a low 21 and then move on. I did want to try running like full equipment RMG because I remember a lot of people hyping it up back in the day. And I don't know if it's been rerouted since then.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure that's a route that could use Stairmaster in some capacity because you don't care about dungeon state at all.
I don't know if it's been rerouted since Stairmaster or not. I know it was rerouted once, but it might have been pre-Stairmaster.
I think it was. I don't remember. I know some people were asking about Stairmaster for that category, but I don't think anyone actually rerouted it. And because you don't care about dungeon state, like Stairmaster is obviously going to be
right, and you have to get the bottles.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems pretty cool. At some point, I do want to like try some major glitches categories as well. I probably just ask around the Discord at some point, being like, "Hey, what's the easiest beginner friendly like MG category I can get into?"
You could do what Nash did, what Meowski did, and do all of the boss RTAs.
All of the boss RTAs? Would that really help? I'm not sure.
You'd learn all the major glitches.
That is true. Well, I do know like most of the knowledge behind all of the major glitches. So now it's just like finding a run, following the route, and applying all of them.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that is one way. I guess that's mostly in a Link to the Past. I don't have any desire to run any other NMG categories. I see a lot of people running low percent Legacy right now, which seems like such pain and suffering.
Who's doing it besides Doom?
Okay, maybe it is just DoomTab. It's
okay.
Me being in DoomTab's Discord and seeing other people talking about it.
Yeah, I've seen him run it lately. It does not seem very fun, but
it seems like it'd be fun if you were good at the game, which I'm not that good. But yeah, besides that, I guess I have goals in Breath of the Wild as well, which is like I recently hit like a 24-minute time in 90%, which I think is like top 20 or something.
Oh, that's good. Nice.
Yeah, it's a decent time, but there's like a lot of time save still. So I'd want to probably get like a lower time there. I know I can hit like a low 24 probably. I also had this really cursed setup where like my game and the Switch OS were both running off the SD card, which apparently makes load times really slow. So like my home I had a homebrew OS that was running off the SD card.
Okay.
And so like my current setup that I switched it now has the game on my system memory with like me running off like the original like hardware as well, like the OS on system memory.
And that makes a
Um,
difference to load times?
that does make load differences apparently.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's like I think one of like player five, like when he switched over to his new setup, which is like everything on system memory, he measured like 8 seconds of time save on just plateau,
Wow.
which doesn't seem like a lot, but it is only like a 23-minute category, so like 8 seconds like for world record runners is
I
like
mean,
quite a
that's a
bit.
lot, right? Imagine
That
golding
is
a
a lot.
split by 8 seconds. Like, it's a huge
Yeah,
amount.
yeah, yeah.
I'm not
And that
that surprised that it would have some effect. I'm a little surprised that if the effect is that big, it's a little odd that it would be timed with loading, with loads included.
There have been talks about like people have been trying to have talked about like load remove times. It's just there's no like easy way or tool to like get that consistently because mine is just like loads for like shrines and stuff. Because you're moving so fast, the game often just freezes to pause and like load the overworld, and that's also very variable and
Okay,
depends on
yeah.
like your hardware and stuff. And so like minus like hiring people with zero wages to like sit through and pause. uh, there's like no good tools to do it, and so people just gave up.
That's fair.
Yeah. Hmm.
I guess it depends a little bit on how much the in-game loads versus the like loading zone loads, like the
Hmm.
shrine sequences matter.
Yeah, I think the shrines do matter the most. Like I was recently part of like doing some research. We had like a rule change, which now forces people that they have to start with the game closed and they have to start from like the Switch home menu,
Hmm.
and the recording specifically has to show that. And that's because so if you like play through the game for a bit and then reset by like not closing the game, just going back to the main menu and starting the game again, you actually like a bunch of the shrine assets are preloaded, and so your loads into those shrines are faster. And like I timed it, and like by the time you reach the second split, you've already saved 6 seconds on loads,
Wow.
which is like pretty insane. There's a lot of loading nuances, which is it's like really weird.
Man. Well, it's a good thing that now everybody has to waste 6 more seconds of their life watching loading zones.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah, that's
sound
true.
like there's really a fair way around it, because otherwise you'd have to waste 20 minutes doing a run first, but
Yeah,
that kind
it's
of
like it was so weird.
sucks.
If you want like a competitive time, you'd like do a run once and then reset and do the actual run.
Yeah.
Which is pretty weird. But yeah, no, I have that goal in any percent, and I'm not too interested in like other categories. There's like one other category in Breath of the Wild, which is like Master Sword restricted, where you have to like collect 40 shrine orbs and then go to the Master Sword to grab the like Master Sword with your 10 hearts. There's like an early Master Sword category, which is a bit of a meme. You just finish plateau and like you do something to just grab the Master Sword without your hearts. Um,
Just like a major glitch kind of thing.
yeah, kind of, yeah.
Okay.
Um, but apart from those two categories, like all dungeons is like I probably just run it because it's a major category, but I'd probably stop there. One thing that I'm really looking forward to is like a bunch of like people in the Breath of the Wild community have been talking about bringing sort of like a legacy, like trying to start a legacy board of sorts, either like a new board or like within the same speedrun board, which would ban BLSS. And it would also ban like after BLSS we discovered inventory slot transfer, which is a glitch where you can basically duplicate a whole bunch of items. You get like 999 fairies and like a whole bunch of other like 999 ancient arrows. Just make the like
Mm-hmm.
which makes all dungeons and all the longer categories extremely like free. You just never die. You have all the ammo you need.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's like it's the combination of those two, BLSS and this trick, that just made a lot of the like longer categories a bit they're easier now, so they're like you can consistently keep running them, but they're also more like much more like much less interesting. Um, Especially BLSS. To steal a joke that one of my friends made, like before when you didn't have that and you had to like it was routed around BTBs, which requires an enemy, and like you had to make sure to orient the enemy the right way such that your collision with them would send you flying through space. And so you'd be thinking about, okay, so where's the nearest enemy camp? How can I move this enemy to a certain spot, make him turn a certain way? Can he stay frozen for long enough? Which he should be able to. And then you want to like there's still some like skill actually involved in like setting up the trick and like executing it to fly. And there you had to use stamina while flying as well. You had to be mindful. If you only had one stamina bar, you couldn't fly that long. Versus now, it's like you have BLSS, which is like it's unga bunga, where rock. Since since you have a bomb, you just pick it up, you step up off any rock, and you fly off to the ends of the galaxy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very minimal setup. And BTB, I believe, stands for bullet time bounce, maybe?
Yeah, yeah.
That's like where you jump on top of an enemy's head and you like shield surf at the last second, and then for some reason go flying off at some crazy angle.
Yeah, pretty much. So like the devs didn't like fully implement like bullet time physics properly. So if you shield surf on an enemy, if you've ever done that before in Breath of the Wild, you might have noticed that you'll actually bounce off an enemy when you're shield surfing. So if you go into bullet time and you like hit the enemy in your shield surf, the game, like when you come out of bullet time, it doesn't correct for your speed. And so you come out of bullet time, but you still maintain the speed you had when you were in bullet time. So you go basically like 20 times faster than you should have if the devs actually implemented it properly. And so you go into shield surf and in bullet time, you hit the like an enemy's back, and then you just gain like 20x speed, which you can maintain with your paraglider. But yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I remember watching Lucentio learn that back in the day when he was doing
Oh
a few
yeah.
runs of Breath 90%.
Yeah.
Cool. And so you feel like you're making progress towards your goals at an acceptable rate, like you're doing things right.
Uh, when I have the time, I guess. But
Yeah,
it's
I
more
mean,
of like a
you have real life stuff. Obviously, you've been quite
yeah,
busy.
yeah. I feel like it would be nice if I could just like freeze time and then just achieve all of my speedrunning goals and then unfreeze and go back to work.
Sure.
But yeah, no. Yeah, I feel like that way about like a bunch of like all of my speedrunning goals and other goals as well. Be nice if there was more time to do all of it, but you know,
Do you feel like you're
yeah,
allocating your time okay? You're practicing stuff, you're making progress?
yeah. I feel like with speedrunning, I'm definitely like I'm happy with like wherever I get time, just putting time into it. Yeah. I wish I did have more time to give. I'd probably like spend some of that like trying to watch no logic races and then that, but there's only a limited amount of time available.
You should sign up, do some comms.
Do some comms, yeah, maybe I should, maybe.
It'd be fun if you do them with someone who knows the format well, like a Malmo or whoever.
Hmm.
It'd be fun.
That'd be true. That's true. Yeah. Mhm.
If you're actually interested, I can get you signed up as a commentator for that. You can get some pings and ignore them like I do.
Perfect. Sounds good.
um, well, I think that's pretty much all the stuff that I usually like to ask people about. If you have any like notable, exciting moments, any big achievements or big streams, or some people have marathon runs or stuff like that that you want to brag about for a minute, this is your chance.
um, I don't know if I have. The only thing that I'm proud of is I have my own clip on Helpsaur King.
Oh, that's pretty good.
That's a big moment. It's a pretty awful clip. It's the clip with the boomerang and the dead rock.
Yeah.
Exclamation mark rec boom wherever Helpasaur is.
It's pretty
uh,
funny.
yeah.
It's funnier in context because he had been advocating doing that boom for weeks at that point.
That's not true. I was still learning it, but I was still advocating for it though. I've since that happened, I went back to analyze what went wrong, and I swear it's a good boomerang. Everyone should do it. um, but yeah, I guess in terms of shouting out things, I haven't done too many marathon related runs. I've done some for like a friend's marathon,
Oh, that's right.
but nothing. But yeah, nothing too major. I haven't submitted myself to anything. This is one thing that I kind of I don't know if I want to improve on it or like change the way I do things, but I like to treat things at my own pace of sorts. So like even now, like for example, I think NMG League's gonna start. Like I should probably like I don't know, like pick up NMG again just to like race and have fun. But like right now I just don't feel like playing NMG. And so there's that thing where it's like even if there's like a marathon coming up where I might want to grind something and submit, it's more of like, well, I don't want to submit anything I'm running right now, and I don't want to take time away from what I'm spending, like what run I'm spending time on to do something else that's submittable. Um, so it's mostly just been like stuff like that.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
no,
that's fair. Do you find
yeah.
racing fun?
Uh, I don't. So I have found racing like when there's multiple people in the race, I find that really fun. If it's one on one, I find that just more stressful than fun.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Um, I found some success in like not having splits. Splits makes everything 10 times worse. So when I just have a split, which is just like Triforce, and that's it. That usually works well.
Well, if you don't like racing, then you probably shouldn't join League, but obviously you should still join League, so.
Um, yeah, I don't know. Next time I join League, I might just try to advocate for whoever my opponent is to like just do four ways all the time.
Oh, even if it's not really the same race, it has that
Oh
same
yeah,
effect
yeah,
for you.
yeah. I'm fine with that as long as like all of like it doesn't matter if like two v twos together, but it's like if it's four people running at the same time, like yeah, I'd be cool with that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What's the difference for? Does it feel like too much attention on you or something?
Uh, I haven't thought about it too much, but it kind of. In general, I don't like 1v1s in particular, but I am a fan of like team events or team games, even if it's like individual free for alls. It feels like it takes the stress off of me. There's more things to focus on than just me,
Hmm.
kind of.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have anything else to shout out. I would shout out like the notes that I've built up, but unlike you, I don't have them on GitHub, so I can shout out at the things that no one can see.
Shout out your Notion.
Shout out my Notion. I have like a whole like I set up Obsidian just to like take notes, and I have like a whole set of notes for like I guess for NMG. I think I have 1,500 lines of notes, and that's not even for the full category. It's only for like Light World, parts of TR, and GT. For all dungeons, I have like a thousand lines of notes. I think I should probably open it and check it, but yeah, um, that's pretty cool. At some point, I'll post it to GitHub and brag to everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this before. If you start putting up PRs on my repository, I will probably accept most of it.
Mhm,
You just want them there instead of setting up your own thing. But whatever you want to do.
yeah.
Um, cool. All right. Well, I think that covered all the stuff I want to talk about. You want to do a tier list?
Sure.
This is your
Oh
tier
my
list.
god.
This is all the towers in the All Towers run.
Oh, this is awful. Do you know the names of the individual towers? I
I
wonder
do
if I can
not.
tell. You do not? Okay. I can kind of tell. Okay. Looking at them, I can kind of see what each of these towers are.
Okay, let me see. I can get them for you. I can get them for you. Let me. Uh, okay, this first one is. Oh, they might be in alphabetical order. Oh no, they're not. This one is Akala.
Yeah. All right. So, what am I rating this based off of?
You
Am I
get to
rating it
pick the
based on
criteria.
I get to pick the criteria? All
Yeah.
right. Hmm. Uh I guess okay, so maybe I can split my vote based on just what the tower is overlooking and how it looks like visually, like scenically for a casual player, and then also include like that's one half of the vote maybe, and the other half would be like how fun that particular split is in the speed run. Maybe.
Makes
Um,
sense.
and I think Akala Tower is probably I put it in S tier. Akala Tower is probably S tier.
Ooh, nice. Okay.
Starting off strong. You have a pretty nice view. It is the tallest tower in the entire game. So you're at the tallest point there. You have like a really cool view of like the coast towards the east, like a whole bunch of islands and like that spiral that you see there.
Yeah.
And because it's the tallest tower, the speedrun's also pretty fun. I guess more. I can't believe I'm talking about the All Towers speedrun, like a serious. Well, more recently, it's like, I guess become a bit less boring because it's just a series of wind bombs and BLSS like slides to the tower. But there was like a cooler earlier route where you would like freeze a Lizalfos and do a really cool BTB to get to the tower. So that's always cool. Whenever you see a BTB, that's what's always really cool. But yeah, no, just generally because all of the other towers require zero effort to get to them in terms of in a speedrun context. This tower has probably got to be S tier.
Okay.
Um,
A good tower. It's got the little Lizalfo's tail spiral for you
yeah.
too. All right, this one turns out to be Farron.
That's Farron. Okay. Farron is pretty forgettable. Because even from a casual perspective, you are like you look out of the tower and you're staring at a cliff face, pretty much. And it's not even like a grand cliff face, it's just like there's a Lizalfos camp underneath you, and then there's just a cliff. And you look on other sides, there's just views of the forest. So I wanna say I guess we can put this in D tier for now and
Okay.
then move it up later if there's something even worse.
You might become the
Um
first person to actually adjust a tier list after the fact. All right,
really
this
people don't do that?
everybody so far. I don't know if everybody, but a couple people have said, "Oh, we'll just put it there for now and fix it later," and then nobody wants to go back and fix anything.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure this won't move. Like even like getting to the tower, both even I guess yeah, even casually getting to the tower, it's not that hard. And like in the speed run, it's just like a lot of towers, it's a single slide and you get to it.
Yeah,
This one is Dueling Peaks.
this is Dueling Peaks. Yeah.
Dueling Peaks. Um, I think I'd want to put Dueling Peaks at like a B tier, maybe.
Okay.
Um, like visually, it's honestly pretty cool to like look out and. I guess the visual part is mainly just the cutscene you see when you activate the tower, where it pans out and you see the tower with like the huge peaks looming over it. That's always really cool. Like speedrun wise, like you like most towers you just slide to it, but like thinking outside of that, there's a really cool like strat you can do in Breath of the Wild speedruns, which is completely obsolete now, called a stasis bounce, where you can charge up a iron box with stasis and like shield surf in front of it, and it'll shoot you out really fast with like BTB speeds, but perfectly horizontal. And so doing that for this tower and like curving around all the obstacles to hit it, it's pretty fun.
That's like one of the
but
really, really early tricks they found, right? The stasis stuff.
That was so what they found early was a stasis launch where you would like jump in front of a stasis object, it would hit you and you would fly. A stasis bounce like uses shield surf physics,
Okay.
which lets you go like so much faster. It's also like much more precise and like more finicky to deal with. Which a lot of people, I think this was like in a speedrun at some point. A lot of people are glad it's obsoleted because it's pretty terrible in a speedrun, but standalone is pretty nice. It's pretty fun.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of
Um,
tricks are more fun to do when you're learning them than when you have to do them at speed in a run.
mhm.
All right, this one's Central.
Central Tower. I think this has got to be another D tier. Because nothing really happens there. It's like one of the lowest towers in the game. I guess casually, like even casually, you don't see much. You have like I guess Hyrule Castle, but you can see Hyrule Castle from anywhere.
Yeah.
There's not much of a view. You just have a couple guardians guarding the base, so that makes it hard to climb. But there's nothing. I don't think there's anything special about this. I can't wait for someone in YouTube to call me out for my terrible takes on Breath of the Wild towers.
Yeah, let him have it. Oh yeah, by the way, I forgot to say, you get to choose the criteria, but Chex articulated the goal, which is to create a bell curve and alienate your friends. So if you're alienating YouTube viewers, you're doing a great job.
Okay, cool. Sounds good.
This one
Create a
is
belt. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
sorry, this one is Elden, but yeah, belt. You know, it's like a smooth.
Okay, so there'd be less in D and S and like more in B kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, it's
I think
whatever you want. It's your tier list.
okay, yeah. I feel like we'll just end up with a lot of D's and C's, but we'll see. Maybe I'll adjust after, and I'll prove to be the first and last person to like adjust my tier list later.
All right, Elden.
Elden is probably a C. Um,
This has cool markings around it. I don't remember what this is in game, but it looks cool in the picture.
yeah. I guess that just shows the lava flow
Oh,
around like the volcano, and in the
yeah.
center is the volcano itself.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the view from Elgin is also pretty. Like the tower is also not that great. Because you have like a huge mountain looming over you. You can't see too much. I guess one of the things I like about it from a speedrun context, like before BLSS brain rot was a thing, is this is one of the splits where you could showcase how versatile wind bombs are. And like it's one of the examples I go back to whenever like someone comes up asking like between a wind bomb and BLS, what's better? And obviously the answer is it depends. But like before you would do like a single wind bomb from the Akala tower to this tower. And like it shows that it saves like a couple seconds, and like it just shows how versatile wind bombs can be. You can just get like a really fast launch and like use some like some tricks to like manipulate your speed to go twice as fast. Breath of the Wild has some weird frame rate issues, but you can use that to go twice as fast. It shows like it's a really cool showcase of how versatile wind bombs can be. It's kind of why I like it, but apart from that, there's nothing special.
Fair enough. All right, this one is Wasteland.
Wasteland Tower. I think I'd put this in a B tier as well. You have a pretty cool view of like maybe I'd bump it up to A. It has a really it's like one of the tallest towers, like the second tallest tower in the game. So you have a really cool view of the Gerudo Desert on one side and like the rest of Hyrule on the other. And even in the speedrun, like even in the current version, actually, I might even bump this up to S tier because I realized like someone like rerouted this particular split to use a BTB from like the Cryonis Shrine.
Ooh.
So
Something
whenever there's
that's
BTBs,
not a BLSS.
oh yeah, it's really cool. You manipulate one of the Bokos that's there, and like you do a BTB. But even before that, this was one of the cooler splits because you would start basically on the north side of the map on Hebra Tower, and you would slide all the way to the south on like you would basically almost die because of cold damage. And towards the very end, you'd have to jump out of the BLS because the tower is slightly like Hebra Tower is slightly shorter. So that even that was pretty cool on its own.
Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah.
You say Gerudo, I say Gerudo. Is Gerudo like correct or are you just weird?
Uh, I would say Gerudo is correct, but maybe I am weird. I've recently been told that I've known this for a while now, but I still call it Minish Cap instead of Minish Cap
I remember
because
that.
as a kid I would always call it Minish Cap because I would look at it and be like Minish made sense with Minish until someone said Minish and I was like, why are they saying it weird? And I was like, oh, Mini,
Mini,
that makes
yeah.
so much sense. But yeah, maybe I'm
How
just weird.
how do you pronounce the shortened form of the graphics interchange format?
I say GIF. It is
Oh my
GIF.
god, I'm
It
gonna
is. It is all.
fucking never release this episode.
It's always GIF. The
Okay.
creator said it's GIFs, and the creator has to be right.
Okay, let's just move on before things get out of hand. Next tower is Hebra.
Um, Hebra is probably an A tier. Um, Hebra is really cool. Before BLS was found, you would do like a BTB from like much lower. It was a really cool BTB off of Moblin, which would gain you height all the way from like below from the chasms all the way to like the base of the tower, and then you do a bunch of wind bombs. Now it's not as impressive, but you still do something other than just slide to the tower. So
Always
it's pretty
good.
cool. Yeah, always good. More variety.
Yeah. Next up is Lanayru.
Um, Lineru Tower. I guess this is. I guess in the old route before BLS was found, this was like one of the hardest towers to get to, and it was always really frustrating because there was no good wind bomb sequence you could use, and there was no good BTBs. There were no good enemies around. So I guess just for being difficult, I wouldn't mark it too low. Probably run of the mill B. You have some cool views from it. There's nothing special about it in the new route, um, but it is definitely better than like some of the other towers on there. Actually, yeah, no, B is fine. We'll leave it there.
All right.
I don't want to think about these too much.
Hateno Tower.
This is definitely at least an A tier.
Ooh.
So this is one of the taller towers in the game, and it's cool because there's very few landmarks around it that you can like abuse to get a lot of height early on, just to get to the tower. So you always in most speedrun routes, in fact in all speedrun routes, like even before BLS, you would start from Dueling Peaks, which is the lowest tower in the game, and make it to the Hateno Tower, which is pretty high up. And you usually like currently you do this by chaining a bunch of wind bombs and doing a slide from like a specific spot on Dueling Peaks just to reach it, which is a little boring, but like whatever works, I guess. The current like before BLS was found, there were like two different strats. One is something called a push BTB, which Breath of the Wild runners probably shudder hearing that name. Which most BTBs, like all the easy ones, you can like fire an arrow at a specific spot to lure an enemy there, freeze the enemy when they like turn to face a specific direction, and then you like look at a certain spot and you do the BTB. So it's fairly standardized, easy to set up. Push BTBs involve you freezing the enemy and like moving the enemy manually to a certain spot, which like these enemies have ice physics now, so they're sliding all over the place. So you have to very carefully position it, move it to a certain spot, and then do the BTB, which is BTBs in general, like they only have like a couple of frames of leniency usually. So it's always terrible. The other alternative is to scan Guardian Amiibo to spawn metal boxes, and then doing a stasis bounce, which is the trick I mentioned earlier to get like really fast speeds. The only problem is stasis bounces only work well on flat ground, and it's really hard to find flat ground on the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
So that's also a very cursed trick. um, I guess all in all, that difficulty like makes it rank high. It's like a really interesting split without BLS.
Yeah, it seems like the ones that are high up or otherwise have some difficulty getting to are the ones that are more fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, so next up is Great Plateau.
Great Plateau has got to be at least A tier. Great Plateau Tower is pretty cool because there have been routes like before BLS was found. I guess it was less interesting, but this is one of the towers which got more interesting after BLS.
Really?
Because finding out BLS is what led to rerouting Great Plateau to start with bombs, and before that we used to do bombs last. And what having bombs lets you do in on top of the tower is it helps you skip an old man cutscene. So in the casual gameplay, when you get the tower and you go back down and hit the ground, the old man comes and talks to you and like tells you like the whole lore, like hey, there are 4 shrines. You can speed that up a little bit by finishing a shrine first before Great Plateau, and then the old man just doesn't show up. You just see the paraglider just come down, hit the ground, and then the camera pans, but like you get no dialogue, so you save some time. It's a funny cutscene. With bombs, though, what you can do, the reason you can't slide off the tower because there's a huge invisible wall around the tower, but you can do a wind bomb that, if it goes high enough, clears that barrier. And then you can
Wow.
induce lag in the game by just spamming the quick menu and like pausing a bunch of times. So that kills Link's speed completely, and you can fall damage cancel out of it. So it's a really cool sequence of tricks to skip that thing entirely.
That sounds pretty
Yeah,
sick.
yeah.
All right, this
What's
next one is Gerudo. Not gonna pronounce it.
uh Gerudo Tower. You know what? Maybe I should look this up on the side how it's actually pronounced. But Gerudo or Gerudo Tower uh is where would I put this? A lot of runs in the past, like even in the past, a lot of runs ended at this tower. What this tower has going for it is you hear Cass's theme there, and you get a beautiful view of Gerudo Town nearby. So that's got to rank it high, at least a B tier. Um, there was one route that me and a friend were working on in the past, which did this tower early, and then you would use a series of BTBs and stasis bounces to clear the entirety of the Gerudo Highlands, which they're really high. So that was like a really fun thing, but it only ended up being like 10 seconds faster while adding like 2 more BTBs and a stasis bounce in the route. So that's obviously not great. Maybe just for that I'd bump it up to A tier because I have like fond memories
Okay,
of those really crazy routes. But yeah.
that's cool. Okay, we've got Lake.
Um I think this is like another C tier. This is nothing special. You go to this one right after Great Plateau. Like once you get towards near its base, it's just like a single wind bomb from the base to the top. So nothing really special. I guess. Well, maybe I could bump it up to B tier because like when this thing pans out, this has like one of the best views because there's like a lot of water bodies around. I've always liked this. I've used this for like a lot of thumbnails, for just because that pan is pretty nice.
What kind of thumbnails?
Just all tower PB thumbnails.
Oh,
The gotta get those clicks on YouTube.
yeah. I've never selected a thumbnail on purpose um, on YouTube. I don't think.
It's I initially just let YouTube select its own thing, but it's like really fast to just like take a screenshot, add text, and like upload it. Like 5 minutes of work. So I was like, okay, might as
Yeah, I
well.
just don't really think about it.
Mm.
Anyway, skill is shown my part. Next up, we've got Ridgeland.
Um, Bridgeland. Okay. Which one is Richland? Oh no. Where is this? Can I tell where this is?
I can send you a bigger version of it.
That might help. Okay, okay. Okay, I think I confused two of the towers here. Okay, so we're definitely gonna see some things moving around. Maybe I think Laneru Tower. Do you have like a bigger version of Laneru Tower? Is that
Yeah.
the one that's near the Rito? That's closer to the Rito?
I don't know about that, but I will send you the bigger one. There we go.
Wait, no, not Laneru. Was it? What did I completely? I was thinking of. I was thinking of Laneru to be like close to the Rito village. That's completely wrong. Laneru is near Zora's domain. Okay, all right.
It
Okay,
has a lot
we're
of
gonna have
water,
to.
so that makes sense.
Yeah, I completely missed that. I was thinking of something else, and I think like coming up later is the one that's near the Rito is Tabantha Tower. um, I guess if you want, you can just pull Laneru back into the queue, and we can come back to it.
Okay.
Okay, but right now, what are we doing? We're doing
Ridgeland.
Ridgeland. Okay, this is what I was initially thinking about when I was said that. So wherever Laneru was, you can put Ridgeland there.
I think it was a B.
It was a B, yeah.
Okay.
You don't get this is the one that you have like a bunch of thunder, like tundra plateau nearby, so you have a bunch of thunder there, and yeah, this was difficult to get to, which is why I said like before BLS it was difficult to get to, which is why I put it there.
Right.
You also had some cool movement options after to get to Hebra Tower from here, so that was nice. Yeah, it's probably a B. I can't wait for people to flame me for forgetting which one. Someone's looking at that being like, Laneru's near the Rito. What's he on about?
Yeah. Next up is Woodland. Woodland.
Woodland. Yeah, this one is near the Deku
Yeah.
forests. Yeah. This is pretty cool actually. I like the views from this. I'd probably put this at like a B or an A.
Which one?
Probably like a high B maybe. Low A works. Low A works.
Okay.
Yeah. It was pretty cool. Like even in the speedrun now, you like slide through the really hot region in like Elden. So you have to go fast so you don't like completely burn up. So that's cool. But like before that, it was even cooler, where you'd have to do like specific wind bombs to like get enough speed to get through that section, and then glide all the way with enough stamina to make it to this tower, which is always hard. You'd have to do. I mentioned this earlier, where you can like manipulate like frame rate changes to like get 2x speed. You'd essentially do what I described earlier, where you spam the D-pad a bunch of times and pause. And like when you like one of the times when you unpause, like the very first frame, the game is going from 15 FPS to 30 FPS or something like that. Basically, the quick menu induces lag, and you abuse that. And so when you're going from 15 FPS to 30 FPS, when you pull the glider on that frame, you get double the speed than what you normally get from a wind bomb or from any like kind of ragdoll launch. There might be some like things I skipped or like some things that were incorrect with that description, but that was pretty cool.
So it's basically pumping, is what you're saying.
It's kind of it's not exactly, but like you do have like a one frame input between closing your menu and opening the glider to get that like double speed. You're not doing it after a point. Once you open the glider, you have the 2x speed. You're good after that. Yeah,
I'm joking. That's cool though. What it actually kind of reminds me of is the DK64 lag clipping stuff. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I'm not. No.
So in DK64, the way the game compensates for lag is basically like if it incurs lag frames, it moves you as if you were moving on all of those, and it doesn't do collision checks during them. So you can like roll towards a wall and throw out a bunch of grenades, and that generates so much lag that you can just make it all the way through the wall.
Good game.
Yeah. Shout out to the N64. All right, now we've got Tabantha, which I think is the one you were thinking of earlier.
Yes, Tabantha was the one. Well, no, I think I mixed up Ridgeland and Linear, but Tabantha we haven't got to. Tabantha, Tabantha is probably a C tier. It has some cool views, but like from any speedrunning perspective, there's nothing really cool about it. Like in the old route, this is the point where you just warp away. Like once you hit Tabantha Tower, you just warp away to somewhere else.
Oh, yeah, that's not fun.
Yeah, so it's like it's pretty forgetful. No one remembers Tabantha Tower. All right, I guess that brings us to the one that I miscategorized, misremembered. Let's see. This one has some really cool views. I love the view of like Zora's domain all around and all the water. Getting to this is like not interesting now because you slide from Ateno to Lineru, and Lineru is shorter, so you just like slide over it and let go, basically. Before this, though, it was pretty interesting. The fastest way to get to Lineru from the Hateno Tower was scanning a Guardian Amiibo and doing a stasis bounce, which is that really fast trick I mentioned. When me and my friend routed it, I think we routed in the optimal route having like 10 stasis bounces, which is insane. I don't think anyone in the Breath of the Wild community would ever do that run. But it is pretty cool to like hit those tricks. I did like a marathon run recently, which was an all towers run, but because all towers are so boring, I tried to spice it up by replacing some of the boring slides with stasis bounces, and I think I hit 2 out of the 3 ones that I planned to put in, which is a pretty good number. I'm pretty happy with that. Yeah. Yeah. So that was a really cool stasis bounce. It would take you all the way to the tower, and you'd have almost enough height to climb it, but not enough. So you'd have to do another midair wind bomb to get to the top. So I think just for that, it'd have to be at least B. Probably even A tier because it has good views to go with it. So yeah, there we go. Did I fit the bell curve? Is Chex proud?
It's actually funny because you started out saying they're all going to be D tier, but then you actually put them a lot in the A tier and a couple in S tier.
Yeah, that's true. I guess I was mainly just reminiscing about back before like the terrible trick was introduced.
Yeah, I guess if you had to rate them on the current route.
Yeah, then a lot of them would just go to D tier, but like a lot of them had character back in the day.
Back in the day. All right, well, thanks for coming on. I'll put whatever you want in the description, your Twitch, anything else if you want.
Would you be willing to link my SoundCloud?
Do you have a SoundCloud?
I do not have a SoundCloud.
Oh, that would be so fun. I can't wait for your SoundCloud rapper career to take off.
No, I don't have a SoundCloud. Yeah, I guess apart from Twitch, nothing much else. I just upload my PBs to YouTube, so there's no point linking that. You could put my anime list link in the description if you want. if you wanted to like go and build a new tier list, I have my anime list linked on my Twitch page.
All right, we can do that when you're back on the next on the podcast for your
Oh
second
wow,
episode.
you have repeat people?
Well,
Whoa.
not yet, but I'm gonna run out eventually.
It would have been such a funny bit if your first 3 episodes were just checks.
Yeah, that would have been really
uh,
good.
yeah, no, I guess nothing else to plug. Whenever I get time and whenever I'm not slogging away at work, I would probably do like a speed run. That's about it.
Cool. All right, yeah. So check him out on Twitch, and thanks for coming on. Catch you next
Yeah,
time.
thanks for having me. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thank you.